Let's get to our tips for round 19. So, big round coming up this week. Obviously, we had a lot of movement on the ladder last week as well. But let's get to round 19 itself. So, we start on Friday night. Essendon against the Crows, I've gone Adelaide. On Saturday, I've gone the Giants over the Gold Coast Suns, St Kilda over the West Coast Eagles, Hawthorn over Collingwood, Geelong over Western Bulldogs, Port Adelaide over Richmond, and on Sunday, I'm picking the Lions over the Swans, Fremantle over Melbourne, and then Carlton over North Melbourne. Now, my brother has provided us with his tips as well, so I'll quickly go through his. He has gone Essendon over the Crows, GWS over the Gold Coast Suns, St Kilda over West Coast, Hawthorn over Collingwood, Geelong over the Western Bulldogs, Port Adelaide over Richmond, Brisbane over the Swans, Fremantle over Melbourne, and then Carlton over North Melbourne. So he's gone with every single home team. I have gone with every single home team bar the first game. We'll go through a couple of games quickly, just a couple of explanations or whatever. So let's go with the only one that we've got different this week, which is Essendon v Adelaide. So he has gone Essendon because they've got a good record at Marvel this year. They've won 4 games, lost 1. They've been down the last month, but they should be able to beat the Crows without Isaac Rankin and should be able to respond. Essendon have not been in consistent form. I think they've gone pretty much win-loss for quite a while now, actually. So they're due for a win, you'd look at it that front. On my side, I actually think the Crows looked pretty good against St Kilda last week. I think they broke away late, which was a good sign. And I think Riley Thilthorpe being back into this side is going to give them a great avenue to go. This is at Marvel Stadium, so there's not going to be any sort of weather conditions that are going to be an issue. Essendon, other than Ben Mackay, I think their defence can get stretched a bit here. And I think that Riley Thilthorpe, he obviously played just only I think he played a quarter and a half of footy against St Kilda, so he'll be fresh, he'll be ready to go. I think this is going to be a very close contest, and I'm picking Adelaide for a bit of an upset here. This is at Marvel Stadium as well, so even though the Crows aren't the greatest away from home, if this is at the MCG, I'd be picking Essendon, but at a Marvel Stadium, I think the Crows have a bit of a chance, and I have got a huge question mark over Essendon at the moment. I really don't know where they're at. After that, though, let's take a look at Hawthorn v Collingwood. This is such a big game, I think. Hawthorn are in great form. They did have that stumbling block against Geelong. Collingwood are in terrible form right now, outside the 8. Interesting where these two teams line up right now. 12th and 13th on the ladder, but this feels like almost a top 8 contest. This is basically an elimination final. Whoever loses this game, I think, is out of the finals race. Whoever wins it gets themselves a really good place. Now, looking at it, Collingwood obviously have a lot of injuries. Hawthorn obviously are running all over the ground at the moment. Really good win against Fremantle last week down in Tassie. My brother has said, we've both picked Hawthorn, of course. He has gone, Hawthorn nearly beat Collingwood in Gather Round and beat them last year. Too many injuries on Collingwood's front, just seem a bit off at the moment. So that's kind of where I'm sitting at as well. Hawthorn match up, I think, really well with Collingwood. I think their midfield can hold up quite nicely, especially with the fact that Collingwood do have some injuries through there. I think that Hawthorn, even though James Sicily played forward a bit last week, I feel like an extra run, he'll be fine. And I don't think Collingwood's forward line is potent enough to really kick a win. I think they can kick a winning score if they can get it in there enough, but they have not proven to me that they can show their true quality, if that makes sort of sense. Bobby Hill and Jamie Elliott looked okay last week, but against the Cats, they really should be winning that game. I know they obviously had some outs, Collingwood, but they should be beating Geelong. I feel like their midfield should have been a lot better, and they had such dominance through the ruck contest with Darcy Cameron, and the fact that they couldn't dominate in the midfield was really questionable for Collingwood. So that's where I'm kind of sitting right now. Collingwood's midfield is going to get pretty well beaten against Hawthorn, and Hawthorn getting it up forward enough, I feel like they're going to have a pretty big day. This may actually be the game that we stream, so keep an eye out for that. After that, we get to probably the game of the round. What a shit time slot for this, by the way. Brisbane up against the Sydney Swans. We have both gone with Brisbane. I think Sydney can win this because Brisbane, despite their last 6 or 7 weeks being in really good form, they have not beaten a lot of big sides at home, I would say. I wouldn't say they're due for a loss, but they've had better form this year, a lot of stages away from home. Now, I think this will be a very close game. I wish that, well, look, I don't really care because I have Sundays off, but I feel like there should have been a better time slot. My brother has said the fact that their forward line is looking really, really good at the moment, besides maybe Charlie Cameron, and it will be a close game, but at the Gabba, the Lions should get on top. That's kind of where I'm sitting on the fact that it's at home for the Lions. The Swans, they did play well against North Melbourne last week, but let's be honest, after quarter time, that game was done. Isaac Heaney will be back, so I will be interested to see how the Swans line up in the midfield. The problem is with Sydney here, I think it's going to be their forward line. Can they kick a winning score here? Can Logan McDonald kick multiple goals again? Can Hayden McLean bring the ball to ground? Can Joel Amati have an impact? Can the Swans Smalls get to work as well? That's the question mark for me, because I think Brisbane's defence can hold up quite nicely. They did pretty well against the West Coast Eagles. I think this is going to be one in the forward line for the Swans or the defence for Brisbane. If the Swans don't shut down Harris Andrews, I feel like he's going to have a field day. The midfield battle, I feel like, is going to be pretty even here. And finally, we've got to do it last week, but we do have our danger game, which we have been bringing up. I think I did it a couple of weeks ago, which is a game that me and my brother have both tipped the same, but is a danger game, which I think could go either way. Now, we could have said that for Brisbane and Sydney, but I felt like it's a different game we had to choose from. So I've gone here with the Fremantle Melbourne game. So this is at Optus Stadium. This is Sunday afternoon. Melbourne had a really good win last week. That was a real gallant performance. They came up. They were no hope against Essendon, and they showed some real spirit. Now, they're going all the way to Optus Stadium this week against Fremantle, who have been in really good form, but they just have a tendency to lose some games. And we obviously saw it against Hawthorn. We saw it a couple of weeks ago as well against the Bulldogs. So I'm picking Fremantle in this game because it's at Optus Stadium, and my brother has said the same. He has gone and said that they'll put up a bit of a fight, Melbourne, but the fact that this is at Optus Stadium, Fremantle should win. They've also got the likes of Gawn out. Darcy should be back for Fremantle, and Jackson should dominate through the midfield as well, so those two can dominate over that second ruck, which I think Essendon really failed to do last week, so I do get that point as well. I think Melbourne have to play their absolute best to get a win out of this, and at their best, I think they can. So that's why I'm kind of putting this one as a danger game. I'm kind of marking it down. I think this could go either way. I'm still ticking Fremantle because it's at home. And I do think that they had their loss last week against Hawthorn. So coming back onto their home deck, they should be a lot better for the run. But I think Melbourne have a bit of a chance here. And I think if they can make finals, Melbourne now, I think this is a game they can scalp. That's just what I kind of thought. That's kind of where my thinking was at on a danger game. But of course, guys, with that being said, let's move to our AFL tipping comp. Of course, we have one for the channel, and this week we have the same leader as we've had for a lot of this year, Brendan S. He has a massive lead now. He leads by 6 tips on second spot and 9 tips on third. Absolutely massive. So Brendan leads on 109. Paul, and he got 7. Paul got 4 and is on 103, and Harvey had 6, who's in third, and he's 9 off the pace. So Brandon's doing really nicely. Now I'm sitting in 6th spot right now with 99 tips. I got 6, so I was pretty happy with that. My brother's sitting all the way down into 10th spot. He's sitting on 97. And right down the bottom is, not equal. It's the same person who's bottom, but they were equal bottom with someone last week. So Brooke is on bottom right now with 94 tips. Kirk did get his way up 1 spot because of getting 6 tips. So he's jumped off the bottom of the ladder, so congratulations to him. Brooke's still sitting on bottom though. And looking at it right now, I want to just take a look at Brendan's tips over the weekend to see which one split the difference. So he tipped the Crows over St Kilda. Yeah, that's pretty fair enough. Doesn't really look like he picked anything different. He just kind of picked the favourites, if I'm being honest. He missed out on the Carlton. Oh, he picked Geelong over Collingwood. I think that's probably one that kind of split a few people. Well, it split me anyway. So maybe I could have got 7 this week. But really good job from Brendan. He is on track to win this one pretty comfortably in the end. There's only, 6 rounds to go from this point. So he's leading in front spot, and he's doing really, really nicely.